Hello everyone, my name is Ivan and today I would like to talk about the data centers in space. It seems to be a really interesting topic and a lot of people are buzzing in Twitter and on X and news and everyone is telling you that's going to happen really soon. Today I want to dig into that and tell you what it really is and how it works and what are the costs. Data centers are not always about AI. We use data centers every day for our cloud hosting, for finance, for cryptocurrency, and science. AI appears to be one of the really interesting implementations and workloads for data centers. Today, we have around 20% AI workload in all of the data centers, and 80% is the rest. But by 2030, by different agencies and research companies, there are predictions that AI workload could reach 50%. Also, market for data centers overall is growing 12 to 20% a year. Data center demand is exploding, but so are the barriers. Land acquisition is slow, permits are a nightmare, and finding viable location is getting harder. So companies started asking a question nobody expected. What if we just build them in space? The major hype around orbital data centers came in November 2025 when Starcloud launched their first small satellite on orbit and trained AI model. The size of a satellite was just 60 kilograms, but model was successfully trained and all systems worked as they should. Elon Musk on Twitter confirmed that SpaceX will be one of the companies that will do orbital data centers. Several journalists accused Elon of deliberately hyping SpaceX to inflate its valuation before the IPO. Turns out they weren't wrong, but what nobody saw coming was what happened next. Then Elon Musk, on the World Economic Forum in Davos in January 2026, gave a speech and said that we'll see a lot of data centers in space in 2 to 3 years. Then, on 31st January, SpaceX filed for 1 million satellite constellation, and this was a very big headline and definitely helped SpaceX to get a lot of attention from retail investors, general public, and institutional investors. Then the headlines started pouring in. 1 million SpaceX satellites set for orbit. But here's the fine print. This wasn't a binding agreement, it was just a soft commitment. And yet, the internet went crazy. So you don't really have to build those satellites even if you file for them. Starcloud followed the same path, and on March 15, they also filed for their satellite constellation, but their satellite constellation is a bit smaller. It is just 88,000 satellites. On March 30, 2026, there is an announcement from Starcloud. They've raised $170 million Series A at $1.1 billion valuation to build those data centers, even though the only thing they had at that time is one satellite that was launched the year before. Let's take 120 kilowatt NVIDIA rack. On Earth, to build 1 megawatt data center, it will cost you from 20 to 50 million, and that means that 120 kilowatt rack would be approximately 8 million. This is great, but let's count the same thing for how much it will be in space. And one of the critical points is solar arrays. NASA paid $103 million for 120 kilowatt IROSA arrays. This is roughly $850, $860 per watt. Even the most aggressive commercial estimates put space-based solar arrays at $200 to $300 per watt of capacity. That means powering a single 120 kilowatt rack would cost somewhere between 24 and 36 million just for the power. Then there is the radiator, and for reference, the ISIS radiator system covers over 6,500 square feet and can only handle 126 kilowatts of heat. That structure alone weighs 10 tons. Throw in a Starship launch at 6 million, and it all up, you're looking at $50 million or even more for a space-based data center with the same efficiency as one you could build on Earth for 8 million. This is around 7 times different. It kills the whole business case from the start. But there are also other issues, even if you have it on the orbit. Everything costs more when it has to survive in space. But the real threat, SpaceX, if they decide to enter data center race, and they very well might, they will launch their own constellation, undercut everyone on price thanks to Starship, and simply stop letting competitors fly in their rockets. Then there is the hardware degradation problem. GPUs in space don't age gracefully. Radiation and the harsh environment effectively turn them into expensive rocks within a couple of years. You can shield against it, but shielding adds weight adds launch cost, and even with protection, your hardware still has a significantly shorter lifespan in space than on Earth. On Earth, that's fine. You send a technician, swap the unit, done. But in space, you have to launch a new GPU, perform an in-orbit swap, safely dispose of the old one, and install the replacement. All at orbital costs. Every dollar you save by skipping the land lease just got eaten by a GPU replacement mission. And you're doing this every single year to keep up with the market. And don't forget the solar panels. They're not permanent either. After 10 to 15 years, efficiency drops to the point where you need to replace them. Another costly, complex in-orbit operation that most people conventionally leave out of the financial model. On top of that, AI workloads need uninterpreted power, constant, stable, always-on power. That's nearly impossible in low Earth orbit, where you're regularly passing through Earth's shadow and losing solar input. And cooling. The radiators alone are enormously expensive to manufacture and to launch. And the surface area required is massive. This is not a minor challenge. It's a structural problem with the whole concept. On the other hand, lower launch costs are opening the door for an entirely new generation of space solar companies. Startups like Ariana, Mayana Electric, and Celestial are all trying completely disrupt the space solar market. Their goal is to reduce the cost of solar panels used in orbit. Some of these companies claim they could eventually bring prices down to around $3 per watt, which would be a massive shift for the industry. Now it's important to keep expectations realistic. At the moment, these technologies are still mostly in the prototype stage, and current market prices are still much higher than that, and efficiency on those solar panels is going to be much lower. But even if part of those cost reductions become reality, it could fundamentally change the economics of the data centers in space. There's also another interesting concept coming from Sophia Space Team. They proposed a modular tile-based design where each tile combines three critical systems. First, a solar panel for power generation, second, an onboard computing unit, and third, a radiator mounted underneath to manage the heat. And heat management is going to be a major challenge. These computing units could operate extremely high temperatures in space, especially when exposed to constant sunlight. So the success of the entire concept may depend on whether those radiators can effectively keep the hardware cool. If it works though, this kind of integrated tile architecture could become a very scalable way to build large orbital computing platforms in the future. Even though Starcloud pivoted from the core idea of building large structures. They originally proposed a thin, fast solar panel wings up to 4 kilometers across that capture constant sunlight to power central GPU clusters. But now they're going to build constellation, as I mentioned early in the video. Overall, when you bet on space-based data centers, here's what you're actually betting on. You're betting the AI race continues at full speed for at least 3 to 5 years. You're betting on companies that SpaceX can quietly cut off from launch access at any time. You're betting that land prices on Earth will rise so dramatically that orbital real estate makes sense. You're betting that radiation, cooling, and hardware degradation, problems with no clean solution today, will all get solved in time. You're betting that building data centers in space is somehow easier than to build them on Earth. At Hypernova, we're not making that bet. The economics don't work, the risks stack up fast, and there's simply too many unsolved problems. We're staying out of space-based data centers for now, but time will tell if we were right or wrong. Thanks for listening to our YouTube video. Follow us on LinkedIn and send us an email if you want at info@hypernovafund.vc. Wishing you all a good health and a great week. Goodbye.